Good morning. So we've been on another weekend overnighter away in our Opus, and we thought that this week we'd show you how to pack down the Opus. A few weeks ago you may have seen our setup video and it showed that actually it's really easy, and hopefully packing it down will be just as simple. We're going to just talk you through all of the step-by-step process, so let's get into it. When we bought the Opus camper trailer, we actually bought 2 rooftop bags as well to go on the roof rack, just to help us with a bit of extra space for anything that we wanted to take. Now, what we've actually found is we are putting the cushions from the trailer into the rooftop bags because they're nice and light, but they're quite bulky. We also put the dividers, so all of these annex dividers, the zip-up doors, they go in there. We put the ensuite shower tent, we put our fold-up chairs, Archie's dog bed, and a few other bits and pieces in there. But we try and make sure that they're light enough for us to lift up and put onto the camper trailer. Okay, here we are inside. You can see the long cushion we've had to put down here together with our fold-out cupboards that we have, kitchen cupboard and inside cupboard. The table, which we normally keep outside, pop onto the sliding bit here. And then there are a few cushions that don't fit into the roof bags, namely the corner cushions. So those we then pop down here, and this final cushion we just wedge here. There we go. So now all the cushions and things are in place. I've made sure all of the windows are zipped up in there. And then what we actually do is we separate the air supply between the annex and the camper trailer, like that. So I'm just closing the valve. And then the last step is to zip up the door. And then what we do is we just undo these tabs, and on this side, and we just make sure that the Velcro stays stuck to the door because it's an easy way to store the tabs. There we go. And then just tuck that in a bit. And now we just close the door. Push that down, and I push hard onto the door, just to make sure it catches the latch properly, and close that. And then again on the other side I push the door in and then close that. Just check it's really firm. Yeah, all good. And then basically just the reverse of setup. So we are unhooking these from the hinges and then removing the Velcro pads. So we have to do this at all 4 hinges. Everyone stores these in a different place, but we just post these through the gap behind the door. And then when we look here, we have the 4 bags for the hooks so that the hooks don't pierce anything when we pack it away. So bag over the hook. The next bit is the most exciting and maybe the most scary bit of the pack down. It's when we open the valves. So So I'm still round the back of the camper and I'm going to start with the first valve. Now, when you open it, there's a hiss and then a big pop. See what I mean? And as we do this, we just push the canvas in so that it's naturally falling inwards as opposed to out. The first pop is always the big pop. This is also where we just do our quick first visual check of the roof. So occasionally if you're camping under trees or anything, there might be some leaves that have dropped on. So we'll just kind of give it a quick wipe down and make sure we're not packing away random debris. So what we're trying to do now is to get as much of the canvas in that central well of the camper trailer as possible. So in order to do that, we have to get these corners off the corners. So we lift these and we sort of turn them inside out and loosen this as well. Just pop that back in. And the same at the other side, just loosening these and taking the corners off. This front one gets tucked on the handbrake, so we pull that back. And this one. And then before we deal with the annex, we just check and make sure everything is pushed down and pulled in towards the centre as much as possible. So we just walk back around the back, pushing the canvas down.
Okay, so on the other side of the camper, we're under the annex, and we're going to do the same thing that Hannah did on that side and just kind of push some of the main tent in. Make it nice and snug, like that. Just get as much in as we can. And then the next part is trying to get as much of these annex poles into the camper as possible by just kind of lifting and pushing in. And the reason why we do that is it just makes it easier because the annex is quite heavy. So if we can get as much in now while it's inflated, it just makes everything so much easier. So let's give it a shot. Once we've pushed the annex in as much as possible into the camper, it's now time to undo all the valves around the annex. So there's 5 on the main tent, there's 7 on the annex. And yeah, hopefully I don't get the same scary pop as Hannah did. Oh yeah. Down she goes. And this is the last one. All the air's out of it by now, but good to get them all undone. There we go. All right, now that all 7 valves are open, most of the air is out of the annex, so we're ready to pack the annex as best as we can into the camper. So we used to just stuff it in, but it's not really a good way of doing it. You could damage the annex and really it just makes everything harder. So we're kind of trying a few different ways at the moment, and we found this is kind of the best way. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab each of the corners of the annex here and try and tuck them into the middle of the camper as best we can. Just like that. Right, once we've done that, we've just got these 2 end bits. So what we're going to try and do is grab each corner and swing them around into the middle like this, and then just kind of chuck it all in, just like that. These are the cords for the annex lights, just like that. Thank you, Hannah. Do it that way, chuck it in. At this point, we'll just go around the camper and just stuff it in a little bit more, make sure as much of the annex and the camper is in the middle of the camper trailer.
Now that we've squished in as much canvas as we can, we're going to start folding the camper trailer up. So we start off with the back fold. Coming over here. As you remember from setup, we attached these so to keep it in place. So we now need to unattach these. There's some there. There we go. Put that down. The next bit can be done by one person, but it's a lot easier with 2. So we're going to fold this in. It is supported with gas struts, so it makes it a whole lot easier. So we try and get up to 90 degrees as soon as possible, and then we try and move the canvas away from the hinges and into the centre of the camper trailer. So up to 90 degrees, and we kind of hold it there with help from the gas strut. Now what you can do is, you have to trust the other person, but you can put your hand inside the hinge and we're just pushing that canvas away from the hinge. There we go. Now once both of you are ready, are you ready, Chris? We gradually start to move it past 90 degrees, all the time pulling further in and pulling that canvas into the hole in the middle of the camper trailer. And as it's going down, just making sure there's nothing that's going to block the seal as it comes down. There we go.
Right, now we're ready to close up the back end of the camper. So we've tucked everything in as much as possible, so it's all nice and tucked in there. We've got to make sure that all the canvas is away from the seals. You don't want to have any of the canvas blocking the seals, because then you risk any water or dust getting in. So once that's away from the seals, we can push down on this as much as possible to get it closed as far as we can. And that's where we're going to use this latch to help us out a little bit, to help us get it closed a little bit. So we unwind it as far as it can go, and then we push it down, hook it on there, and that just allows us to bring this down and helps us close the lid much easier. So we'll do that for both sides. On this side, we have these little safety pins as well, so we'll just make sure we pull those out. lock this down, and we make sure we put these back in. So quite often when you do the front pins of the back fold and the front fold, you just need to come back and check the back ones, because sometimes they loosen up a little bit. So this one's fine at the moment, but I know the other side's going to be a little bit loose, so we just need to make sure that that's nice and tight before we move on. Now we've done the back fold, it's time for the front. So firstly, we've got these little latches under here. So we just undo those like that. One on either side. And that frees the front fold ready to move back. So this, same with the back fold, is on gas struts. So while it takes a little bit of muscle to move it up and down, it's actually pretty light. It's much easier than it looks. So we're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to close up the front fold and put down the latches on it.
Okay, up to 90 degrees. Pull everything in. Get your arm in. And then down it goes.
So for the front fold, we just have to make sure that we move all of the canvas away from this middle seal. This is the most important step in packing it up, and that makes sure that we don't have any leaks of water getting in. So we just monitor that as we go. Again, loosen this clasp as much as possible. Just helps us bring down the front fold and get it in easier. So we put as much body weight on it as possible until we can kind of get that clip on there and push it down like so. Now we'll do the other side. Again, we make sure all the canvas is inside the camper and away from the seals. Just do a visual check of the front as well. Looks all good. And starting with the back clip first, hook it on, pull it down, and we have another one of these safety latches here, so we just take that off, hook it on, close it down as much as possible, and put the safety latch back on. And again, it's important to check the back one because you may have noticed it slipped off, so we now need to retighten this and lock it down. Always remember to do the back tire, really important. Don't leave the campsite without doing this. So we've got the support poles here, really easy. They just maneuver in like so. There's 1, 2, locks in place. If you've had your hot water system out as well, just make sure this bar is retracted into the storage position. And then the spare tire, which is also on gas struts, is really easy to just pull up and lock in using these little latches here.
And the final bit is to put the roof rack back. So again, these are on gas struts. So what we do is we just hold the weight of the roof rack slightly while we undo the safety catches, a bit like everywhere else. On this side, there we go, and then you just gently push it down. Okay, so Chris is just latching it at the front, and then I attach the safety clasps at the back. So it just creates a double safety that the roof rack isn't going to pop up while you're driving. I also just like to do a few checks right at the end to make sure that we haven't missed anything in the process. So I check that we've got the safety on the roof, that none of these clasps are loose, that the clasps that are closest to where it opens both have safety catches as well. That's tight, round the back, check that the wheel's up. Looks like we've got a pet spider. Check that that's tight. That's tight again, that we've got safety clasps on the two ones nearest the opening. Check that the roof rack is tight. This one's slightly loose. I will just tighten this. It's also worth, if you are putting anything heavy on, it is worth just double checking once you've put a load on your roof rack, because what happens is it's on these kind of little rubber feet, and so when something heavy goes down, it can almost compress the rubber slightly and loosen these. So that is one final check that we will do after we've put the roof bags on. So there we have it, all packed up and ready to go. I think it took probably about 20 minutes. I reckon that's an average pack-up time. And it's definitely easy with two people, although absolutely manageable to do it with one. It makes it worth it. The fact that it's so fast does make it worth it just doing overnight trips, because if you've got like a 2-hour setup, then it feels like a real pain to actually unpack and then have to pack up again the next morning. So I think this does meet our criteria of having something that's quite manageable, that we can literally finish work on a Friday, go away for the weekend, and then be home Sunday evening ready for work again on the Monday. So yeah, good job.